All right. We are going to get rolling, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. If you cannot see my PowerPoint, guys, please chat at me. Let me know. I hope you all can see it. And we will get started here. Okay, so we're going to go over the purpose of this webinar is to go over the 5 most effective home workout strategies. And the cool thing about this webinar is not only is it going to be useful for at-home workouts, but it's also going to be useful for whenever you do workouts at the gym as well. So if you're traveling for work, going to some different gym or whatever it is, you can do this from home or the gym. It's going to work for everything. So we're going to get moving here. Okay, so I know that a lot of you guys know who I am, but some of you guys don't. So my name is Steve Lavick. I own Beyond Measure Fitness with my wife, Kate Lavick. And I have a Bachelor of Arts in Exercise Science from North Central College. And you can see I've got my certifications listed there. There's a number of them. I actually have another certification this weekend. Only reason why I have that on there, guys, is just to really show to people that I am absolutely passionate about this. I love this. This is my whole life. I honestly don't know what else I would be doing with myself if it wasn't for training. So I absolutely love this. And I wanted to also just tell you my story briefly here. I won't take up too much time with the story, but I think it's important. So in 2012, unfortunately, my best friend was tragically murdered. And this happened to me at a time in my life when I really wasn't ready for it. I wasn't able to handle really much anything mentally, emotionally. And not only was Sean my best friend, but he was also my roommate. He was my role model. We had been living together for 4 years at the time. And so this took me down a really rough patch in my life for almost a year. And unfortunately, it led to anxiety. It led to depression. It even led to alcoholism. And thankfully, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, somehow decided to stick with me. And she helped me get through it. And it was not easy. And by getting through this, I learned a ton about myself. I learned a ton about life. And that's when I realized that, you know, with losing Sean and his example on me, he was such an impressive person that, you know, I wanted to do the same thing for other people. So that's why our gym exists. It exists to help educate, motivate, and encourage every person to become the happiest, healthiest, and strongest person they can be, both inside and out. So in a nutshell, that's my story, and that's why I do what I do. I think, you know, it might sound corny or cheesy or cliche, but, you know, fitness, there's a lot more to fitness than just losing weight or getting stronger. There's a lot mentally and emotionally that goes into it, and I think that we can all learn life lessons through fitness as well. So I think it's a pretty neat thing. Okay, so what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about self-evaluation. We're going to talk about mindset, setting yourself up for success. Then obviously the 5 most effective ways to work out. And then at the end, we'll have some questions and answers. I hope that you guys are able to chat. So please ask, you know, as we go through this, jot down some questions that you might have. I'll hang around as long as you guys want to answer questions, just talk about things. And then there will be an opportunity too, if you want to even set up a call after this to see how I can help you out individually, we can do that as well. All right. So before we even begin talking about the 5 most effective ways to work out, it's really important to understand where you're at now and to just kind of reflect. I believe that it doesn't matter what kind of plan that you have. If you don't start off by looking at yourself in the mirror and figuring out where you're at and setting realistic expectations, I don't think it's going to work out too well in the long run. So I think it's important to take a look at where you're at now. What's your fitness level like? You know, how active are you? And then with all of that, that's where you're at now. Then you want to think about, okay, a year from now, 5 years from now, where do I want to be, right? So those are obviously your goals. And then adding on that, we want to think about, okay, what kind of mindset do you have right now? Do you have a short-term mindset? Okay, I want to lose 20 pounds in 3 months. Or do you have the long-term infinite mindset in terms of fitness, thinking, okay, this is something that I know I need to do for the rest of my life to stay healthy. Okay, now what are the things that I need to do consistently over time so that I can ultimately get to where I want to be? And so I think it's really important, guys, to really think about things a little bit differently, to try to adapt that infinite mindset rather than the finite mindset. Because the people that have the finite mindset, excuse me, the people that think, that fitness and working out is just a means to an end, they're the people that a month after they achieve results are back to where they started or worse, right? So right in the beginning, guys, super, super important to really keep things in perspective and to adopt that long-term infinite mindset, knowing that, there's no end to this game. And that might sound depressing to some of you guys, but there really isn't. The human body was designed to move, and we have to keep moving, okay? We have to keep moving to stay healthy, right? Most important, long-term, this is preventative healthcare. Fitness is preventative healthcare, so it's really important that you keep moving so that long-term we avoid every single type of mortality, guys, is linked to lack of movement, right? So the odds of every type of mortality go up if you're not moving, guys. So it's really, really important to keep moving and have that long-term infinite mindset. And then if you can find something that you love to do on top of that, then your goals are going to take care of themselves. You won't put too much pressure on yourself. You're just going to enjoy the process. Okay. So developing the right mindset, that infinite long-term mindset, is really important when you get started. And the last little note on there, guys, is where you're at now is going to determine what you're going to do when you get started. And we're going to chat more about that here in a second. Okay, so setting yourself up for success. This is absolutely critical, okay? So you've got to be realistic with yourself. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they get started with the fitness routine is they're like, okay, I've got to work out every day. I've got to flip my diet upside down. Everything I'm doing is off. So I just have to do everything the opposite. And then a month later, they give up because it's just too much. It's too much to think about. They work too hard too soon. They get hurt. They get sick. They're just too tired to move, or all the above, right? So that's why being realistic, and again, it relates back to that infinite long-term mindset. If we have a finite mindset, like, okay, I only have 6 weeks to get this done, you're going to work out every single day and burn yourself out. But if you have that infinite mindset, you're going to understand, all right, I have all the time in the world. I need to start where I'm at. I need to understand where I'm at and start at a realistic, consistent pace. Okay. So this is where I want to talk about consistency and its relationship to intensity. Consistency trumps intensity every time, 100% of the time. Every time somebody new comes into our gym, and I talk to them about, okay, how many hours a week do you have available to start working out? And, sometimes they'll say, oh, I want to work out every day, or, you know what, I think I can only work out twice, 2 hours a week. And I like to put it in perspective that 2 hours a week, guys, over the course of a year is over 100 workouts, which is fantastic, right? Compared to 10 or 0, right? You've got to keep that in perspective. Understand that by doing that, you're setting yourself up for long-term success by making that a part of your life, by making just 2 hours a week of movement a part of your life. And then that way, you're not going to burn yourself out. You're not going to get sick. You're not going to get hurt. All these other things that happen when you just put the pedal to the metal right away, after not moving for who knows how long, right? The odds of getting hurt are just extremely high. So you just really need to be careful with that, okay? So I hope I'm getting the point across, guys, that consistency, it doesn't matter how intense you are. It doesn't matter how much you do. All that matters is that you stay consistent with it, right? Even if it's, okay, 10 minutes a day, we just need to get moving. We need to start walking, okay? So 10 minutes of walking a couple days a week, that's going to evolve over time into more and more activity. It might not sound like much right away, but a year from now, that 10 minutes of walking, I guarantee you, is going to evolve into more and more movement. All righty? Okay. Moving along. All right. Well, this is why you guys came here, right? So the 5 most effective workout methods, right? Now, like I said in the beginning, this could be for working out at home. These also apply for working out at the gym. And so the number 1 most effective workout method. Now I'm assuming out there that part of why we're working out is to burn fat, right? We want to burn fat. We want to lose weight. Not necessarily. Some of it's for the aesthetic side. We want to look better, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look better, right? So when you look better, you feel better, you might have more confidence. But on the health end of it, lower body fat is obviously really, really important for optimal health, right? So when we have too much body fat, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, by the way, the #1 killer in America, not even close, right? So lowering body fat is really, really important, not just for the aesthetic side, okay? So I had to bring this up, guys, and I know it's gonna frustrate probably everybody, myself included, because the #1 most effective workout method actually isn't even working out. It has everything to do with nutrition, and I can't avoid talking about this, okay? This is really important because it doesn't matter what you do, and this is part of why people quit, because they destroy themselves in the gym and they don't change anything from a nutrition standpoint. And oftentimes, not only do they not lose any weight, but they actually gain weight, because what do? They're so tired from all the workouts that they're doing that they actually just go home and eat more of the bad stuff that they were eating. So they actually gain weight when they start a workout program. So it's like, why in the world would I continue doing this if I'm gaining weight, right? So that's why I have to bring this up, guys. Nutrition is, if there's a hierarchy of fat loss, nutrition is #1, not even close, okay? So nutrition is the most important, okay? Then I've got a little quote on there from Dr. John Berardi: "Without nutrition, effort in the gym is largely wasted." And it is so true. And it is so unfortunate when you work out, you do all this stuff and you're staying consistent, and then you're trying to get these results and you're not going anywhere, right? So nutrition is almost always the missing link when it comes to getting results. So sorry, guys. I know I've got the little frowny face on there. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of the situation. So I had to tell you. I had to bring that up. Okay. We're going to move forward. #2. Okay. So this is actually the #1 workout, but the #2, if this was a hierarchy of fat loss, the #2 most effective way to do that is by doing full body metabolic strength training. Okay. And for those of you who are members at our gym, this is what we do mainly. This is our prime focus with everybody. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're doing full body metabolic strength training. Okay. So the best thing that you can do when you're working out is what we want to do is 3 things. Okay. We need activities. If you look at that first bullet, it says activities that burn calories, that elevate your metabolism, and that build muscle. Okay. Metabolic strength training does all 3 of those at once. It's the only thing that does all 3. Okay. That's why it is so important. This is why it should be your foundation for exercise. Everything else after this should be considered an extra. Okay. Just quickly, wanted to go over the study. By the way, I'm pulling this from an article from Alan Cosgrove. He's a gym owner in California, and he wrote this article years back about the hierarchy of fat loss. And so I'm pulling this from his article that he wrote here. This is just a mind-blowing study. Okay. So what they did was they took some overweight subjects and they divided them into 3 groups. Okay. The first group was just a diet-only group. The second group was diet and aerobics. So aerobics would be long distance, low intensity, walking, elliptical, even light jogging would be considered aerobics, right? And then the third one was diet plus aerobics plus weights. Okay, so all 3 of those things. So the results were, in the 12 weeks, the diet group, they didn't even work out at all. They lost 14.6 pounds in the diet group. What's amazing is that the aerobic group, if you can see this in bold, guys, it lost only 1 more pound than the diet group, okay? And they were doing, so by the end of it, it was 3 times a week, about an hour of cardio, 3 times a week. So 36 one-hour sessions led to just 1 more pound of weight loss in that 12 weeks, okay? So that's really important to understand. The weight training group, however, lost 21.1 pounds of fat. Okay, that's 44% and 35% more than the diet and the aerobic groups, respectively, right? So it's just proof, guys, right there that strength training, by doing something that burns calories, elevating your metabolism, and building muscle, all 3 with that full body metabolic strength, that's the most effective thing that you can do from a workout standpoint, okay? So what is that, right? What do we do? How do we do it? Okay, so what we do here at the gym, like I said, that's the main focus of our program is metabolic strength training. So what kind of things can you do? So these are power movements. These are core movements, anything where you're pushing, pulling. Knee dominant would be like squatting. Hip dominant would be something like a deadlift. Carry, if you have never done a farmer's walk or a suitcase carry before, things like that. And then at the end of our workouts, we do a high intensity finisher to get the heart rate up. Okay, so a power movement, by the way, would be something like a jump, like a squat jump would be a power, or a box jump, or a kettlebell swing, something like that. Core, obviously, would be something that works your abdominal region, so something like a plank or a side plank, things like that, okay? On top of that, guys, what you want to do is pair two movements together that don't compete with each other, okay? This is really important so that your rest, what makes it metabolic is that your rest time, you're actually working an area that wasn't worked on that, or wasn't targeted as much necessarily as that first movement, okay? So for example, you could pair together a squat and a bent over row. A squat is going to target more of your lower body, right? It's still a full, if I want to be really technical about this, guys, it's technically still a full body exercise, but the squat is definitely going to get your legs going a little bit more, okay? The bent over row is a pulling exercise, which is going to target more of your upper body and core. So by pairing those two movements together, okay, your squat, your legs are going to be resting while you're doing your rows and vice versa, so that you get that metabolic effect of constant movement, right? Maybe you rest obviously a little bit in between as needed, but it's going to minimize that downtime in between, all right? Because we think about what happens at, you know, your standard box gym, okay? You've got TVs everywhere. You might do a couple reps on a machine, sit there, check your phone for a little bit, whatever the case might be, when you should be doing another exercise that targets another area, okay? I hope this makes sense, guys. Again, please jot down some questions that you have. There's going to be Q&A at the end. I hope I'm not going too fast. This makes perfect sense to me, by the way. So if you're not sure about something, there's no stupid questions, guys, I promise you, okay? So please write down your questions. All right, so I hope that's making sense. Moving forward, okay, so the next thing on the list, okay, number 3 overall, but number 2 when it comes to working out would be some type of high intensity interval training, okay? So what does that mean? Okay, high intensity interval training is something that is one of the most screwed up things right now in the fitness world. What we see is people just making things as hard as humanly possible and taking all of the rest away, okay? But what happens when you take rest away? That means it's actually less intense, okay? It's really important to understand that the intensity level of what you're doing, if you're not resting, has to go down. It's physically impossible. Think of an Olympic sprinter, 100 meters. Think of how fast they're moving for 100 meters. That is a completely different pace than somebody who's running cross country, like 10,000 meters, right? Not even close, right? The 100 meter guy is moving way faster. The difference is they're moving for 10 seconds or less, okay? Now, if you can find something that gets your heart rate up in 10 seconds or less, that would be fantastic. That would be awesome. Sometimes not always the case. It might take 20 seconds. It might take 30 seconds. That's actually something that comes with more experience, being able to get your heart rate up faster and quicker, okay? So we want to get the heart rate up pretty high, right? We're thinking 80% of your heart rate max or higher, okay? Now that comes with being comfortable with having your heart rate up really high, right? So with high intensity interval training, it's not the first thing that you want to do. And that's why, once again, going back, that full body metabolic strength training is the first thing that you want to do. It's just such a great foundation. And trust me, guys, if you haven't done it before, there's a solid amount of cardio when it comes to that. If you ask some of our members, sometimes they don't know the difference between strength training and some of our high intensity, and that's because of the metabolic effect that's going on, okay? So we want to get the heart rate up with high intensity training. But again, where most people screw this up is they don't rest, okay? Which means the next time they come back to that exercise without the rest, that means the intensity level is going to come down. It has to. You just cannot, no one on earth can possibly maintain a certain level of intensity without any rest. If that was the case, then 100-meter sprinters could just sprint a mile 4 times around the track at that level and set new world records in the mile. It's just not possible, okay? So rest is where the magic happens. Once you get your heart rate up really high, you have to recover, and it's during this recovery phase where we're actually using fat as an energy source, okay? Now, what I recommend, I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm gonna talk a little bit more in detail on the next slide about how to do it, but it has a profound effect on your metabolism. It still promotes muscle mass, okay? And it helps with something called EPOC, or excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, which means that when you're done with an effective high-intensity interval workout, it's gonna take your heart rate a long time to get back down to baseline, okay? And it's during this time that you actually continue to burn calories at a much higher rate. When comparing that to aerobic training, long distance, whether it's jogging or whatever it is, your heart rate doesn't really get that high, all right? So if high intensity interval training is way up here, long distance stuff might be halfway. And so that lower intensity gets back down to baseline really quick. Whereas with the high intensity, it takes a long time to get back down to baseline. And it's during that long duration where your heart rate's getting back down to baseline where you continue to burn calories at a higher rate. So it's basically like making a really nice investment on something and getting a return on your investment while you're done. Some studies have shown that you continue burning calories for almost 2 full days after you're done, right? So up to almost 40 hours, your metabolism will still be going crazy and you'll still be burning calories at a higher level than you normally would have if you did something at lower intensity. Okay, so again, I can't stress it enough. That only happens if you make the time to rest. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more here on our next slide. Sorry about all the words on this, guys. And by the way, if you want a copy of this slide show here, I can send that to you. Just make sure that you chat me your email address and I will send this whole thing to you. Okay, so how do you do high intensity interval training? Like I said before, we want to pick exercises that will get your heart rate up quickly. Also, the exercises, we don't want them to compete with each other, just like when we were doing our metabolic strength training, right? So basically, we don't want to pair up 10 lower body moves in a row because you won't be able to walk or recover nearly as well, okay? So it's just not as effective. Plus, there's a much bigger benefit by including the entire body versus doing just one area at a time. I guess I could have chatted about that too, about the metabolic strength training. You think about some of the old school, upper body day, I'm gonna do back and biceps or chest and triceps. And then, Friday's leg day. And so nobody goes on Friday, so that's kind of an old school mindset, and it's not nearly as effective to doing your entire body. That applies to both metabolic strength training as well as the high intensity interval training, okay? So you want exercises that don't compete with each other. Effective interval training, guys, allows for plenty of rest. At the very least, you want to have a 1 to 2 work to rest ratio, meaning that if you were to work for 10 seconds, you want to at least rest for 20 seconds. If not more, take as much time as you need to get your heart rate back down to baseline, okay? So what I recommend is once you gain control of your breathing, you're probably ready to repeat that. A really cool way to be able to monitor whether or not you're performing at a high intense level is to use something that can actually measure your power output, okay? So here we've got these assault bikes that show you the speed that you can get to. So I might encourage our members to get to the highest speed as fast as they can, right? And it'll show them how many miles per hour they're at. And so their goal every single time is gonna be to match or beat that top speed every time. Once that top speed starts not getting anywhere close, we're either not resting enough or they just need to be done with that move. They've kind of reached their limit in terms of how much power they can put out, okay? So that's the idea. We want to match the same amount of power every single time. That's the most effective way to do interval training, high intensity interval training, okay? So rest is so important. Please take your time, work really hard, and then take your time, as much time as you need to recover, and I guarantee you'll get better results. Okay, some examples, guys. Jump ropes. Jump rope is probably one of the one of the most underrated pieces of equipment. It's great for at home as well. If you don't have a jump rope, you could just do imaginary jump rope, like you've got a jump rope in your hands, but just without one. One great piece of equipment I would highly recommend for at home is a kettlebell. We'll talk more about this later, but it's one of the most dynamic pieces of equipment that you could have. You can just do so many different things with it. Any sort of jumping, guys, is going to really get your heart rate up as well. If you've got some sort of ball that you can throws, stuff like that, think explosive. Sprinting, running really fast, or going uphill, doing stairs, something, again, whatever gets your heart rate up really quick. Okay. Now, I have at the bottom here, guys, that you need to wait until you're ready for this. The last thing you want to do is, if you haven't been active in a while, is to just jump right into high-intensity training. Not a good idea. Okay, that's where people pass out, they get sick, they get hurt, or all of the above. That does not sound like a fun day. I threw up, I got hurt, and I passed out all in the same day. We don't want to do that. Again, go back to your metabolic strength training, start building that foundation. And once you feel confident with that, the next step will be to add some high intensity training. Now, how do you measure this? We use heart rate monitors. By the way, guys, I have no affiliation with MyZone or anything like that. We use MyZone. They work out really well. It comes with an app on your phone. Their website is myzone.org. Definitely a little expensive, but it's just a great investment to have long-term for your workouts, okay? And it's a great way to measure. It helps with consistency and accountability. It's a pretty neat tool. I definitely recommend checking out there's a ton of different ones out there, guys, but definitely having a heart rate monitor that's on compared to just, I know the Apple Watch and some of those other apps, the Fitbit, are okay, but they're not nearly as accurate as wearing an actual heart rate monitor, okay? And all of them have apps that with the Apple, if you have an Apple Watch, it'll show up on your watch. You just download the MyZone app. Pretty neat. So that's all about high intensity interval training, guys. Again, if you have any questions, please jot them down and we'll chat about it at the end here. Okay. Next on the list, we have high intensity aerobics. Okay, high intensity aerobic training. What kind of things are this? Okay, so it's now I will say before I get into it, it's not nearly as effective as high intensity interval training, but it is still useful and effective for a couple different reasons. Number one, you don't want to overtrain yourself. So we shouldn't be doing high intensity interval training every single day. In my opinion, you shouldn't do it more than twice per week. All right, it's just too much, not necessary. Okay, so that's where high intensity aerobic training comes in. It's a little bit less intense. So after a strength workout and a high intensity workout, a high intensity aerobic workout would fit in nicely, okay, because your body, it will actually help your body recover a little bit more. So what kind of things can you do for that? Things like biking, moving at a pretty good pace, and then resting for a couple minutes, but it's constant motion, right? So for example, with the bike, you might go 1 to 2 minutes at a faster pace, and then from there go 2 minutes or so, 2 to 4 minutes at a nice and easy pace. Think recovery pace, but we're still moving. The difference is with high intensity interval training, you actually completely stop, right? Your goal is to get your heart rate to come way back down. Whereas with high intensity aerobic training, it's constant movement the entire time. Okay, I hope that makes sense. These workouts, you can go for as long as you like, but 20 to 45 minutes usually is more than enough for most people. And again, this is the third most effective way to actually work out, right? Number 4 on the total list. So again, your priorities so far are the metabolic strength training first, then high intensity training, then high intensity aerobic training. Okay, then we have cardio. Okay, this is number 5 on the list. And some of you guys might be thinking like, are you serious? I do cardio every day. What's going on? This is really important, guys. Cardio has actually been shown to actually decrease your metabolism. Okay, it has a negative impact on muscle mass. And this is really important. The reason why we want to have muscle on our body is that it requires a lot of energy for your body to maintain muscle. Okay, so that means at rest right now, because of the muscle I have on my body, I'm burning fat and calorie. I'm burning fat as effective as I will all day, and I'm burning calories at a higher level because my muscle takes a lot of energy to be able to maintain. So if you don't do any strength training, if you don't do any weights at all, that means you don't have muscle or much muscle. We all have muscle, but we won't have much muscle, which means our metabolism is low, which means we don't burn a lot of calories throughout the day, which means we can't eat a whole lot, right? And most people have it backwards. Most people do a ton of cardio, so we don't have a really high metabolism and we're eating too much. The cool thing about strength training is that the more you get into it, the more you can actually eat as long as it's good stuff, right? So be careful with that. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people just keep eating more of the bad stuff and they gain weight, so don't do that. But the more muscle you have on your body, you actually are able to eat more. Your basal metabolic rate with more muscle goes up. Your basal metabolic rate is how many calories you burn at rest on a daily basis. And the more muscle we have, the higher your basal metabolic rate is going to be. I hope this is all making sense for you guys. Even though it's the number 5 thing on the list, it still has a place, okay? So I'm not a complete hater on cardio. You will be hard-pressed to find me doing cardio on my own. Really the only cardio I do is with my dog because my dog needs to go out and run. So I'll take him on bike rides or jogs or whatever it is. That's really the only cardio I will do, but some people really enjoy it, so that's okay. The key though, because it does have a negative impact on our metabolism, is to find the minimum effective dose, which means what's the shortest distance or the shortest duration that I can go where I still feel like I'm gonna get results and that I feel good, okay? What do most people do when it comes to cardio? Oh, I need to go longer, further, more, 40 miles a week, whatever it is, because for whatever reason, yeah, I understand the runner's high. A lot of times we're chasing these results that are just never going to happen because of its negative impact on our metabolism. Okay, so you've got to be really, really careful with that. Once a week, think of this as, just something extra. Let's say you've done 2 or 3 strength workouts in the week. You don't have a whole lot of time, but you want to do something. Go for a run, get on the elliptical, whatever, go for a walk, whatever it is. Or let's say maybe you got after it this week and you worked out every day. It's Sunday and you need to recover. That's one good thing, guys, about low intensity cardio is that it actually does help you recover as long as you find that minimum effective dose. Okay, so let's say on Sunday you just need to get out and move a little bit. Absolutely, guys, we should move every day. So go for a walk, go for an easy jog, get on the elliptical, whatever it is. You should be able, the way that you can tell it's low intensity is you should be able to carry on a conversation with somebody while you're doing it, okay? So also this could be used as part of a warm-up, right? So it should definitely not be the only thing that you do for a warm-up, guys, but it could be part of it, all right? Okay, so cardio, number 5 on the list. And again, it's so important to note that what do most people do when they get started with a fitness program? Cardio, right? They go out and run or jog or walk, and it's not bad. Oftentimes it will get them some quick results, but the reason why they plateau so quickly is because it's the number 5 thing on the list. So we need to start doing some strength training, okay? All right, so I've got some at-home equipment recommendations for you guys with the links here. I've got some videos of just doing some random exercises so you can tell what each piece of equipment is here. I meant to put a company that I recommend, no affiliation whatsoever. The company I recommend, this is where we get most of our equipment from here, is called performbetter.com. Again, that's performbetter.com. They have really nice equipment, really good prices for the most part, but it's really nice quality, okay? But yeah, these are some of the pieces of equipment I recommend. Don't take up a whole lot of space. Now the kettlebell, like I said, if you were just to get one thing, get a kettlebell, okay? Get a moderate weight kettlebell and, if you're good on budget, you could get maybe 2 or 3 kettlebells and you'll be set. Honestly, you could do a whole routine and be set with just 1 kettlebell. Mini bands are great to help strengthen the whole body, but mainly we use them a lot for the glutes here. Bands with handles are awesome. You can really use them anywhere. The TRX suspension trainer is a great tool to have because you could take it with you. It's very lightweight. Now, I will say it is expensive, but I've had mine since 2011, and it's still in perfect condition. No issues with it. I brought my TRX to Florida. I wrapped it around a palm tree, and I was working out on the beach on a palm tree with my TRX. Really, really neat tool to use. You can do a whole workout at home. It comes with a door anchor, so you can anchor it to your door at home. Really useful tool there. And then moving sliders, actually. Moving sliders, you could use towels if you don't have moving sliders, or paper plates. Moving sliders, there's a bunch of different exercises you can do at home using those for your upper body, your lower body, your core, really everything. And I've got, again, those videos on there for you guys to take a look at some of those. All right, I have no idea where we're at on time here. We're 40 minutes in. We're doing okay. Beautiful. All right, so 40 minutes, that's pretty good. I will take that, not taking up too much of your guys' time. So this is my information on here, my email address. That is my Instagram, the Steve Lavick 14. It's a silent H, by the way. That's how you pronounce my last name. I will, if you guys need an at-home program, I can send you one. So send me an email and I can get that to you, as well as, you know, if you want that, or if you want the slides here, I can send you this presentation. And then also, guys, if you want more specific help, I'd be happy to schedule a call with you, whether it's just giving you some quick advice, or if you want to work together either in person or online for watching this webinar. I'll get you guys 20% off of whatever you want to do. And I've got a link down there. I hope you can click it through this. If not, I'll just send you the presentation, and you can set up a call with me as well if you need some help figuring out what you should do based on your schedule and all this other stuff, whatever it is. So, all right, guys, so that's all I have here. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to take a peek here. It looks like someone chatted in. Okay, so we had a question here. Where does Zumba or dance programs fit into this? That's a great question. And I'm gonna give you an answer that hopefully doesn't confuse you. It kind of depends, which is the best answer, right? Okay, so to clarify, if you're somebody that dances or does Zumba often, that's probably going to be a lower intensity cardio style workout for you. Maybe like inching towards the high intensity aerobic, but probably more likely if you do it often, it's going to be more aerobic, right? So think of that as like the icing on the cake, something extra that you can do for movement. I highly recommend it. I think it's great. I think you should move. I think it's fun. For somebody like me who does not dance often, that's probably going to be a little more high intensity, right? So because I just don't dance, I don't do it often. So that means it's going to be way harder for me because I'm not efficient at dancing. Trust me, you can ask my wife. Not an efficient dancer at all. So if you dance often, it's definitely going to be more aerobic. If you're not if you don't dance often at all, and that goes for anything that you do, if you're doing something new, it's probably going to challenge you a little bit more. Okay, but over time, it's going to get more aerobic. No problem at all. All right. Any other questions, guys? Please feel free. Anything at all? And then also, guys, in the chat, please send me your, if you want this presentation, send me your email address and I will send it to you. No problem. Okay. And then another question, how do we find the right minimum effective dose of cardio? Another great question. Really, I go based off of feel, okay? We all know that runner's high, right? Where we're feeling good. And then we get to the point where it's like, okay, now this is turning into work, right? Now it's like, now I've got to really kind of force myself to keep going. That's where you should stop, right? And then what you can do is over time, you can figure out the time or distance that is, and then you'll just know, right? Now, if you haven't been active in a while, if you, let's say you haven't run in a long time, or if you haven't done Zumba in a long time, it probably won't be as long as before, right? So it can either be for a time, or once you feel like, man, I've got to force myself to keep going, that's when I would stop doing the aerobic stuff. Okay, another question. Can you use hand weights rather than a kettlebell? Absolutely, guys. So dumbbells are useful as well if you have dumbbells at home. The only reason why I didn't have it on my list was it's just not quite as dynamic as using kettlebells. You can do a little bit more with kettlebells, but if you have dumbbells, there are plenty that you can do with dumbbells as well. So absolutely, 100%. Awesome. Good questions, guys. Any other questions? I'm glad you guys had some questions. We didn't get shut out here. That's good. Go ahead, guys. Type them in the chat. Anything at all. All right. We've got another question. Awesome. Okay. So only caught the end of the presentation. Would you mind sending me the full? Yeah, absolutely. You got it, Lauren. I will send you the presentation for sure. And I'm recording this as well, guys, so I can email you the video as well. All right. Questions, guys? Anything else at all? I'll hang out here for a minute or two. We still have everybody on. I really appreciate you all showing up. Really nice showing here. And I'm going to continue doing this more often, guys, on other topics. So if there's any other questions that you have, or maybe there's a topic that you want to learn more about, feel free to send me an email. Follow me on social media, on Instagram or Facebook. You can just search my name. I think I'm the only Steve Lavick on there. Very unique last name, which is useful. And you got it, Vishali. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, if there are no other, I'll wait like 30 more seconds because you're all still on here. If any last second questions, no questions are bad, I promise you. I'm here for you guys. Like I said, I will put out other topics here in the future as well. All right, guys. Well, it looks like beautiful. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Looks like we are all out of questions. So thank you all so much for joining in. This is my first one here. We've got a good topic suggestion. Thank you, Caroline. Love it. Dieting will be definitely a good topic to go over. Once again, guys, I really appreciate you guys joining in. This was great. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did as well. And I will make sure that I get all this information out to those who sent me their email. Also, just shoot me an email, guys, individually if you don't want to share it on here. And I will send you the video as well as all the slides on this presentation. So, all right, guys, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for coming. Hopefully this helped in some way. And I'll hopefully see you guys on the next one. Thanks, guys.